For Buy a Better Tomorrow in Tennessee.
Hi, this is Mark Spain, and I'm here to tell you, you can get a strong cash offer and sell your home fast with the guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. There's no obligation. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today and start packing.
855-299 sold.
Certain restrictions apply.
It's time for some straight talk. You've got real work to do, but everyone's sucking up the free Wi-Fi faster than a Mocha Choco double frap on ice. So be your own hotspot. Now with Straight Talk Wireless, get 10 gigs of hotspot data with the Ultimate Unlimited plan. Just $55 a month on America's largest and most dependable networks. You don't have to find a hotspot. You are the hotspot. Straight Talk Wireless.
No contract, no compromise. Compatible device required. See straighttalk.com.
Designer face masks, DIY haircuts. In a world full of things you never thought possible, here's one more. Now you can get the same high-quality insurance from Allstate, but at a new low rate. Drivers who switched and saved averaged $718. With Allstate, you can lower your rates, not your expectations. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Reported average annual savings when switching auto by new customers surveyed who saved with Allstate in 2019. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Not available in every state. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
If Jeff Jarrett's life was a movie script, nobody would believe it. Hear it all on My World with Jeff Jarrett.
With host Conrad Thompson.
What's going on, man?
Who's the wrestler here? Who's the one with all the belts? Look, I've got a fish above me, and that's it. And you've got 50 belts. So
you won them, and I bought them. So I don't know what that means. I'm excited to be here. I had never met you until 2018. Here we are in 2021, and it's really happening.
My World with Jeff Jarrett. Listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your shows.
For all your foundation and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com.
From the Mark Spain Real Estate Studios.
615-737-1045. We always do this thing in sports where you got to assign a winner, you got to assign a loser. And for me, I saw, or I was tagged in a bunch of stuff last night saying the Preds, people going back and forth saying proud of the Preds, proud of the boys for being able to fight back, make a series competitive, honestly, overachieve against a superior team to push it to 6 games after being down 0-2. They remain unable to break the streak of not being able to come back after losing the first game of a 7-game series. They have yet to do that in franchise history. This will be no different the end of the season. So a lot of praise for the fight that they showed to make it to this point. But then I'm also looking at this and seeing people interact on Twitter flat out calling the Preds season a failure because of all of the things that went wrong, the mental mistakes that were made, small though they might be, that kind of accumulated to the place where they found themselves last night getting bounced at home in a 6-game series in the first round. I mean, I do think that the efforts on the ice by the Nashville Predators to get to this point, I think they're admirable. I have a ton of respect for those dudes. I have a lot of respect for John Hines, to be honest with you, given that he has been maybe not completely and totally transparent with the media, but he has had to field some tough questions lately about why this thing kind of fell apart. And again, it did not completely fall apart in this playoff series, but everybody is looking at that, just mental mistakes. And you'll hear from John Hines here in a second, talking about the equalizer to tie it at 3-3 before Carolina was able to take the Preds to overtime, and the Preds essentially did blow a 3-1 lead in that game. All of the momentum working in their favor. The building looked insane. I was watching on television. I did eventually go down to Broadway, but we'll get into that a little later, because if you're watching on Zone TV, you can see that I'm in a bathrobe, and I'm in bad shape today, to be honest with you. I told Lucas that he's going to have to carry me today. I am dealing with a righteous hangover because I went down to Broadway. I got talked in to going down to Broadway at 10:45 last night because I got a text from a bunch of friends saying, hey, if the Preds win, we need to be out downtown. We need to be on a rooftop. We need to see the mass of gold humanity streaming out of Bridgestone, drunken onto the streets. And then, of course, it didn't happen, and I'm paying the price for that today. But I do find it admirable that they were able to find themselves in this point. And or in this position, in a playoff series, pushing it to 6 games after how disastrous their year started. But I'm also looking at this because I read Joe Rexrode this morning in The Athletic, and I thought he put it really well, saying that they overachieved in this series. But for me, you can overachieve and still have absolutely blown that game last night. It's such a shame because they were the superior team these last 4 games. I think that's a totally reasonable statement. And small miscues, small mental errors, whether it's a situation like in Game 5 where, Alex Carrier has been a very, very good player in his first playoff series, a young player who I think, a lot of people may not have thought he was going to be as good as he has been able to perform. And then a small, just a tiny lack of awareness when Sebastian Aho is trying to get him to take a penalty to even up the 4-on-4 for Carolina in that overtime. And then ultimately the game-winning goal is scored. Now, I know not a lot of people are saying it's Alex Carrier's fault. I'm not saying that either, but small things like that. Small things like, basically allowing a mental miscue, a mental error to let a third goal, an equalizing goal last night slip by you when you've clearly been the better team for probably, 2.5 periods? 615-737-1045. I want to know how you guys are processing this loss today because honestly, I'm still undecided. And I'm kind of running this through the same prism as with the Tennessee Titans, right? Tennessee Titans win the division for the first time since 2008, host a home playoff game, get bounced in the first round. And a lot of the conversation was had about whether the Titans season was a failure or a success. We're kind of processing the Preds in this same way. And I don't know if that's a parallel comparison that can be made, given that one team won their division and the other team, needed everything on top of being like undefeated in shootouts during the regular season, just to squeak into the playoffs with a 0.34% chance as of March. William Duggar on YouTube says they just seem to run out of gas. I mean, it's a lot. They've been asked to play a lot of high-intensity, high-pressure hockey. But isn't that the expectation that they should be held to? I'm curious to know what you guys think. 615-737-1045. We go to Charles in Nashville. He wants to talk about the Preds and the Canes last night. What's going on, Charles?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Hey, so I was born in Raleigh, grew up a Hurricanes fan. I'm a Hurricanes fan now. I will honestly say Preds fans have nothing to be ashamed of. You took us to the edge. I thought after the first two games, I was talking so much crap to you guys saying how we're going to blow y'all out. You honestly, Coach Hines outcoached our coach
yes.
for the last 4 games. He really did. Rod didn't know what he was doing. All of us Canes fans were just pissed off because we couldn't figure out how y'all were doing this. And I honestly think, mad respect from all Canes fans to Pred fans, y'all took us to the wire. Y'all showed us our weaknesses. And I hope to God Tampa Bay didn't look at that film against y'all because they know what we're weak at now.
Yeah, we appreciate the call, Charles. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. I mean, John Hines, I thought, coached an exceptional series under the circumstances because we were hypercritical of him after game 1 and really after game 2 when they were down 0-2, and he was saying that they had he didn't know what game the media was watching as opposed to him because he felt like there were substantial improvements made. And it bared out that way. We jumped on his neck too quickly. He was asked last night in his post-game press conference about this third goal that allowed the Canes to take it to overtime and ultimately claim the victory and the series. This was John Hines in his post-game press conference speaking on it last night.
Yeah, on the face-off goal, they brought the inside wing high. That's Ellis's responsibility. And then Trent's got the slot. He's responsible for Hamilton coming down, but he kind of went out to the forward, and it was just a misread. And, unfortunately, it wound up in the back of the net. But those are the, some of the detailed things and the awareness things, particularly if you get caught out on an icing and, they throw out different players. So you're in a different matchup because of the icing. That's where that, attention to detail and focus is really important, particularly in these types of games.
That was John Hines in his post-game media availability after the Preds lost in 6. Focus. It's not something that they lacked throughout the course of this series, but just these small moments that can make all the difference in a postseason series. It damned them ultimately, and that's unfortunate because they did, as Charles pointed out, he's said he's a Canes fan. He lives here in Nashville, and he stated that he has respect for the Preds, for the coaching staff, and for this team. They deserve a degree of praise today. But also, those mistakes cost you the series. And that is a disappointment organizationally. I'm not just talking about the team. I'm not just talking about the coaching staff. I'm talking about the organization as a whole. You have put your team in a position since the 2017 run that this is going to be your core. This is who you're going to try to maximize your window with over the next, 3, 4, 5 years potentially, given the way that they have some long-term deals signed at this point. This is a team that should compete, that should do better than a first-round ouster, even if they did overachieve. I think ultimately we spend so much time, whether it's fans, whether it's us in the media, talking about, Carolina's clearly the better team. The Preds are lucky to even be in this series. Carolina clearly superior, so anything that the Preds get, it's gravy. But also that is lowering the standard that the Nashville Predators have set for themselves about what they are supposed to do, who they are supposed to be, and how they are supposed to hold up when it comes to playoff time. 7 consecutive postseason appearances, that's nothing to turn your nose up at all. They have been successful. But on the scale of success, when you talk about this Preds team, I feel like a lot of people today after they process, hey, great job, great fight, fun environment last night at Bridgestone Arena, the stadium, look, it felt so good to see people celebrating the way that they were after the Preds went up 3-1. Now, obviously prematurely, but just to have that environment around you. For me, ultimately, though, I think that we should not lower the expectations for them. Any of the teams that we root for, any of the teams that we cover, the expectation should not be lowered for the Titans. They should do better than a first-round exit as a division winner. The Preds, even as they struggled and looked dead in the water for the first, month and a half, 2 months of the season, even after the way that they rebounded, they should do better than a pat on the back after taking a series 2-6 games against a team that, yes, is better, but why is it better? Whose fault is this? And I'm not just doing the lazy sports talk radio, hey, we got to find somebody to blame when something goes wrong. I swear that I'm not. But ultimately, I think that there's layers to this. And I think you have to kind of process it through all of those different layers to understand how you feel about this team. I am undecided. I'm not sitting here, passionate about this season being a success because the way that they clawed back, the way that they showed fight and showed effort as things became more critical, more important. I don't know that it's an outright failure. But we'll talk about it more on the other side. Kayla Anderson of WKRN News 2 is going to join us, and we'll take your reaction as well. 615-737-1045, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
There's never an off season. Here we go. The Titans play on 104.5 The Zone.
At Cordell & Cordell, we focus on representing men in domestic relations cases.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
We recognize that our clients are going through perhaps the toughest time they will ever go through. We understand that everything that's important to them is on the table. Their assets, the role in their children's lives. That's an immense responsibility that our clients entrust us with, and we take that very seriously. We've been trained to do that. We've helped thousands of clients before, and it's our hope that you'll choose to entrust us with what's most important to you.
The attorneys at Cordell & Cordell work to help men maximize their role in their children's lives. Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
America's favorite car show is returning to Nashville on Memorial Day weekend for some hot rodding fun. The good guys are back with the 15th BASF Nashville Nationals this weekend at Nissan Stadium, featuring over 2,500 hot rods, muscle cars, and trucks from across the country. And don't miss the Good Guys CPP Autocross, featuring the Music City Mayhem Shootout, presented by Willwood Brakes, and see which car is crowned the Good Guys 2021 Tanks Inc. Hot Rod of the Year. It's all going down this weekend at Nissan Stadium. Get details and health and safety guidelines at good-guys.com.
Hey, good morning, Buck. I am rubbing my eyes. I am already 2 cups of coffee in. Man, last night was a long night.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how long, I guess like hours wise, just to kind of put in perspective for people what it means to cover a playoff game from a local TV perspective. Like how long a day did you have actually?
So it would have been longer if we weren't still kind of in that pandemic mode in terms of covering teams, because usually you get started at like 9 a.m. and you're actually there for morning skate, because after morning skate, you can go in the dressing room and talk with some of these players. So everybody usually shows up for that. But in the pandemic world we've been living in, it's all Zooms, right? So you can do a Zoom as you're getting out of the shower and, have it going in the background if you need to pop in and ask a question. Well, there's no video, so there you go.
Wait. Have you done that? Have you been like on it? That's tremendous.
So, legit, like I've gotten out of the shower, got my robe on, and I'm like putting on my makeup, and I've got the Zoom going. No lie.
Love that.
But so usually, it starts a lot earlier, but I'd say 10 a.m. You're in there, you're doing the Zoom calls, and then you're starting to put together all your scripts, because you usually have hits, which are, things where you're on air in the early shows, which for us are 4, 5, and 6. And then when you're done, you get up to the game, you're taking notes, you're keeping up on social media, and then long games like this, you're waiting until it's done. If you don't have a late in your 10 p.m. show, you're doing a morning thing like I did. So I was there at like 11:30, 12, shooting a morning hit, and then going back into editing it afterwards. So it's a really long day, but it's fun. It's worth it.
Yes. So it would have been more worth it because you're doing much better than I am this morning. I went out. I got talked into going out on Broadway at like 10:45. I'm righteously hungover trying to do 3 hours of live radio today. I'm literally wearing a bathrobe in the studio right now, Kayla. I'm totally mailing it in. So you're carrying me today. But
I love this.
But with this team, with this series, how do you kind of summarize the 2020-2021 Nashville Predators? Because people seem to have mixed emotions about this team and about, how much or how little they ended up doing once it came time for the postseason.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I think people should have mixed emotions, because it's been a roller coaster, right? The season has been interesting, to say the least. It's been shortened because of the NHL calendar season because of the pandemic, so that was weird in itself. And then they started off poorly, and at one point it was going to be a fire sale, and I think Preds fans were just trying to come to terms with that. And when they finally did, they go on this road trip and they just start putting together wins, and it seems that they start to find an identity while half of their team is injured, including some star players. And Preds fans are like, there's no way this team's turning it around. And then some of these younger players get boosted into the lineup, and that's when I think this team took a turn in terms of the best, is because these younger players boosted the play of some of these veteran players who I think were just kind of going through the motions at the time. And so then Preds fans are like, wow, we might have a chance when we're able to get a playoff spot. They were still the underdog, Buck. Let's not kid ourselves here. But I think coming in, and you saw how they played in these games, especially those first 2 games at home, and you're like, this team has a chance. So it's a lot of emotions up and down, because you really don't – you want to expect this team to get further than the first round, but they continue to kind of fall short year after year after that 2017 season. So rightfully so, I think fans have a right to feel kind of frustrated. But at the same time, I think it's a miracle what happened this year with turning it around.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we cite the statistic all the time. They had a 0.34% chance of even making the postseason back in March, when everything seemed to be falling apart at the seams, and everybody in hockey was talking about them being the biggest seller come trade deadline time. Kayla Anderson of WKRN News 2 here with us on 104.5 The Zone. At Kayla Anderson TV is where you can follow her. They overachieved in this series, to me, Kayla, but I felt at the end of it, after I'm kind of like trying to contextualize how I feel about their season, how I feel about the effort that they made, because I do think that they deserve, players, coaching staff, they all deserve a degree of credit for getting to this point and pushing one of the better teams in hockey to a 6-game series. But I feel like we've lowered the bar for them. At least a large portion of the conversation has been about lowering the bar for them by just continually saying Carolina's the better team, Carolina's the superior team, Carolina's got the better athletes, Carolina's faster, bigger, whatever. And it's kind of like made it, I don't want to do like a cliche participation trophy thing, but it feels like they're getting a pat on the back for just being in the series. And I don't think that's the way that the analysis should be done. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong on that, Buck, because look, when standards are raised after that 2017 season, the standards were raised. The pressure was on this team, but rightfully so, because they had a great core group of players. They had talent. They had big names, right? David Poyle spent money to bring in guys like a Matt Duchene, who has underachieved. And it's one of those things where we shouldn't be making excuses for a franchise that has been voted one of the best sports franchises in sports. And so you do have to take it to another level at some point. And I think the problem has been the core has just not achieved the level of, I guess, success it should have when David Poyle decided to bring all these guys together. They didn't achieve what they needed to achieve. They underachieved. And then you had guys like the young guys stepping up this year, and that's what made it work when it's all said and done. It wasn't the $8 million players that were making it work throughout the season, right? It was these younger players, these no-name players that kind of held this team together and really allowed them to make the postseason. So at some point, I just think you got to bust it wide open, Buck, and you got to just shake up the whole core. You have to at this point. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's getting it done. And how many times are we going to say, oh, well, we're glad they made it to the first round, but other than that, what have they accomplished?
No, listen. They've made the playoffs in the last 7 seasons, which is an accomplishment unto itself, of course. Yep. But also, I mean, it's no longer just about getting to the postseason. You have to be able to be competitive. They were the better team, I would argue, through 4 games, even if the record does not indicate it, just based on the way that they strategized, and they ultimately pulled it off against Carolina in terms of mitigating what it is that the Hurricanes do best, and trying to take advantage of that. They weren't able to capitalize two specific mistakes that you can pinpoint that cost them at least 2 of these games that are problematic. But what is the view? Because we'll talk about expansion draft, and you may have a little help blowing up the core of this team, given the players who aren't protected right now. But what is the view of David Poyle at this point? How do you kind of look at him at this juncture in his tenure, having been the only general manager of the Nashville Predators, the consistency of the team struggling, even though they seem to have found themselves, ultimately the burden falls on him for what this team does or does not do. Does he continue after this season?
And that's a great question, because you do hear the chatter around this kind of question when fans are, I think, a little frustrated because things just haven't gone the way they hoped they would go when you bring in some of these big name guys. But at the same time, that's what fans were loving at the time when David Poyle was making these moves. They just haven't panned out as well as they should have. But I think David Poyle is a great general manager. I mean, I've covered other hockey teams. I'm close to in terms of keeping up to date with other teams, and I think he does a great job. The thing with David Poyle, though, that makes it difficult, why you think, okay, how long is his future here in Nashville, is he gets close with these players, with the teams. It's personal for him, right? And I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but sometimes I think business decisions aren't necessarily made in terms of personal decisions. And maybe why you didn't blow things up, this year. Even when you knew maybe you had a chance at the playoffs, you didn't even make any. I mean, you made no moves. You brought in Branson. That's all you did. So I think that there is going to be some pressure moving forward on David Poyle if there are big moves made in this offseason, which I think there's going to be some major moves, I don't see him being here for much longer. But again, that's just my guess. He's got to make moves. That's my point. He's got to make moves or it's not going to work.
Kayla Anderson of WKRN News 2 here with us on 104.5 The Zone. All right, the players that are protected from the expansion draft that will basically form the Seattle Kraken's roster, Philip Forsberg, Victor Arvidsson, Colton Sissons, Luke Cunnin, Roman Josi, Matthias Ekholm, Dante Fabro, Ryan Ellis, and, of course, UC Saros. In a best-case scenario, when you look at the guys, and certainly they're two highest-paid players at this point in Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson as a part of the list of players who are exposed to this expansion draft, what's the best-case scenario in terms of who they might lose?
So I think the main talk has been around how do you kind of get rid of a guy like Matt Duchene who's underperformed. I've mentioned this already today, but I think Joey's in the mix too because he just hasn't performed consistently during the regular season, and he's also making $8 million. The argument that I make for Ryan Johansson is he's a big, big, big part of that team. He's been with this team for a while. He's a leader on that team. He is very well liked in the organization. He's clearly been able to put it together when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, he had 3 goals this postseason. I think he played really well in this series against Carolina. But he's underperformed during the regular season. He's been inconsistent, and he is making a lot of money. But Matt Duchene, I just think, has been a disappointment. Nothing against Matt Duchene as a person. I think he's great. I'm not saying he doesn't go out there and try, but it just seems to not be working. And I think if you can try to make a deal with Seattle and try to figure out how to get him there, I realistically think that could happen, Buck. If not, and it's not that type of move, I could see like a Calle Jarnkrok being one of the people that heads up to the Kraken, which would be a loss for the Predators. But again, he's been a great player.
How much goodwill has John Hines generated throughout the course of this postseason performance by him and his staff? Because I really think that they've put something together that, if they'd had better execution on the ice by the players, was a successful game plan against Carolina. Has he improved his Q rating at all with Predators fans, do you think?
100%. Look, I think John Hines is a really good coach, specifically in the department of development and getting guys to buy in and believe. And I heard Johansson say that last night on the post-game interviews. He said, we have bought in, we believe. And that makes me think, okay, that starts from the top. That starts from what your coach has kind of put together in terms of buying in. And so I think every single player on this team has bought in. And specifically in this series, I do think they did a really good job of adjusting, after those first 2 games in Carolina and coming back and switching up the power play and mixing it up a little bit. Just with the lineup moves that he's made throughout the season has been successful, to say the least. And then when it comes down to it, the new players that have come in, he's been able to get them to buy in really quickly, and they've been able to be successful. So I think that all lies on coaching. I think he's done a hell of a job, and I think he's going to do big things here in the next couple of years if they can make some moves.
But, Kayla, to an extent, that's what we've heard for the last few years, right? A very vocal effort by the players to try to keep the core together, that they are bought in, trying to keep this train rolling since the Stanley Cup run. So at what point do we have to kind of take that out of the equation when the results just aren't there?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're right. The results aren't there, and we keep on going back to this every postseason. I feel like we're talking about them falling short. And I think John Hines, though, hasn't been here long enough to put it really on him. And if John Hines wasn't here and this whole season, went down like it did, I don't think they would have even made the playoffs. I just don't think Peter Laviolette would have been one of those guys that when all these young kids are having to come in and, step in and fill in and try to elevate some of these other players, I don't think that would have happened with a Peter Laviolette. I think John Hines specifically has been able to rally this team together to at least get them to the postseason. I think he's pushed some of these veteran players as well. He's not afraid to say, like, look, you're not doing your job. You're not going to play as many minutes. So I respect that too. But, yeah, I mean, at some point it's got to be something where they're going further than the first 2 rounds at this point. But that, to me, is more of a core shakeup when it comes down to it.
Kayla, we appreciate you taking some time this morning. I know you got to be exhausted. What can the people look forward to coming up on News 2 with you guys this evening?
Yeah, so I am taking the next couple of days off. Mom's in town.
Oh, hell yeah.
Trying to entertain her. We're going to go ahead and hit Broadway up on Saturday. But you can always check News 2 out. We've got so much stuff going on with the Titans, obviously, and then just Vandy baseball continuing this weekend. And always check out our website, WKRN.com. We got stories for days up there.
At Kayla Anderson TV is where you can follow her. Thanks, Kayla. Enjoy the weekend with your mom.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, man. Wait, what is this setup, by the way? What are you doing in here?
Sup?
Why is Andrew not on camera? What?
Nobody wants to see me.
Well, that was very, very sad. We are going to address what is happening in my space. I've been violated on very many levels today, and I'm not happy about it. Kayla was great. It was almost enough to make me forget what the hell is happening this morning. We will get to that on the other side. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Want more fun from J Mart and Ramon? Yes, that also means the pettiness. Hang out with J
What the hell is going on?
There's been a breach.
Yeah, you're here. Why are you here? Why are you sitting in here?
The light is so bright.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How do you do this?
How do I do it? I do this for 5 hours a day.
Searing into my retinas.
Showbiz, babe.
Well, I'm hosting Blaine and Mickey today from 1 to 3.
Okay,
Which,
shameless promotion.
We will see you on at 1:20.
Yeah, do I have to?
Yes. You stick around at 1:20. And I'm here prepping for my 2-hour radio show with the Hitman, and Andrew's just helping us out. So we appreciate Andrew.
So what so you just mailing it in? Andrew has to do the hard stuff. You're there screwing around on Twitter.
I'm still producing the show in that I'm getting the audio together and making sure that we're going in and out cleanly in terms of the music and what we have. But Andrew, this is the second time I've trained a producer at this station that has like way more experience than I do. I trained, quote unquote, trained Joe Hunk, who's been doing this literally a decade more than me. And I quote unquote trained Andrew, who also has more experience than I do from his time in Dallas.
Do you feel like you got the raw end of this deal, Andrew?
No, I'm just happy to be here. I mean,
no, I need more passion than that. I'm sorry.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm very annoying. Just ask Lucas, especially on days like today.
No, you guys have been a lot of fun when I've been here training and hanging out.
Okay. So
it's not his first Buck Reising show.
No, I know. Andrew has helped the show, but this is the first time that you've just left him back there in the production studio, sat down, popped your camera on, and I guess I have a co-host today.
Sup?
Oh. How do you feel about your hockey team? Because I want to. I'm out on Monday, thank God, because I'm limping across the finish line this week. I'm in a bad way. But how do you feel about your hockey team? You were down there doing pregame and postgame last night. You looked like you had a great time at Poncho and Lefties and with 3HL. And then you go through the emotional experience of seeing your team at the highest of heights. Or maybe not the highest of heights, but you see them go up 3-1 and everybody's going crazy and everybody's drunk and everybody's screaming and in gold. And then, the collapse.
Yeah, I picked them to lose, and I said it would be Carolina's best performance in Bridgestone Arena at the end of our pregame show. And they lost, but not in the way that I thought they would. So I thought there would be a little more closure, that Carolina would just kind of come in and outclass the Preds for most of the game and walk away the better team and win. But it is a gut punch because we talked about how the Preds, did what they needed to do on Tuesday to win and came up short. They were just flat out the better team for the majority of the game last night. They outshot the Hurricanes the majority of the game until the third period.
And then they turned it on.
Yeah, and when the game-tying goal happened, you just thought, I don't see it. At that point, I thought this series is over when they tied it up with Dougie Hamilton.
Michael Otto says, Buck, you are a Nashville radio personality. This is your team now, too. Okay, so should we talk about my behavior on Twitter last night? Because I felt wrong for it this morning.
Let's.
Okay, so as we discussed, I went out because some friends of mine had recommended or suggested at about 10:45. I was very, very well settled in at home as me and the cats were chilling. Dara's in Naples all week. Like, I don't got nothing to do. I'm very excited to just sit in the house and do nothing, okay? But I get a text from some people, hey, we should go to Broadway during the second intermission just in case the Preds win. Want to be in that environment? It's great, right? That's, we're now in the point of the pandemic where things are starting to be more relaxed. We're maskless at Titans practice yesterday. Everybody's having a good time.
It was buzzing last night.
The capacity at Bridgestone, the people are back. It's buzzing like hell. And so I get down there, and I'm watching the third period on and off on my phone and on the TV, because the TV's at the bar that I was at on Lower Broadway. They got the Lakers game on because obviously LeBron, and then they got the Preds, and everybody's watching the Preds to kind of see how things play out. And I watched most of the third period, but I did not see them go to overtime. So I don't know at what point I lost track of the Preds game, but it was like a half hour later before I checked my mention. I mean, I knew that they lost because I knew when the arena exited how measured the response was, because there was not a bunch of people in gold drunk and naked in the streets, although I did see several people stripping themselves of Predators jerseys and stumbling their ways into honky-tonks, which is always a delight, the people watching. But so I don't check my Twitter mentions until a half hour later because I'm like, there's nothing I'm not going to add anything to this. There's nothing I have to say that's going to be some kind of enlightened commentary about the Predators. I'll get my stuff together. I'll rewatch the third period in the morning before we do the radio show, third period in overtime, and then we'll go from there. But I was a few tequilas in. As all good stories start. Or maybe this isn't a good story. But I was a few tequilas in, and I see a tweet from our dear friend Lebowski of the Football and Other F Words podcast. And all the tweets that now at this point I am aware that the Preds have lost, and I have not said anything since Sebastian Aho scored his goal. I have not commented on anything Preds. I have removed myself from the internet. There's only bad things that can come from me being on social media.
What point of the game did you tweet that tweet exactly?
What, the bad tweet or the Aho tweet?
Yeah, the snarky one, the one that Lebowski peer pressured you to tweet.
That was at 12:14 a.m.
I'm trying to think of what point in the.
No, the game's
over
by like a half hour. I didn't check I wasn't paying that close attention after I knew that they lost. This was post game. Again, past midnight. Nothing good on the internet happens past midnight, especially when I'm in a don't press send situation, 3-4 tequilas deep. Okay, because all it says from Lebowski is "do it" at Buck Reising, and so I'm a little tipsy on Twitter, and I just go vibe check. Okay,
is it like the Star Wars Sith Lord? Do it. The GIF of the.
Do it.
Palpatine.
Let the hate flow through you. And so, in the most jerky way possible, I put out a tweet that just said vibe check. And of course, the mentions just poisonous. And I don't mean it. I don't care. I'm obviously not rooting against the Predators. But for whatever reason, I respond to peer pressure on the internet. And especially from people that I know and that I follow, like Lebowski. Like if somebody just randomly tweeted me that, I probably would have ignored it. Like Lebowski's, I'm playing a bit at that part. I'm playing the heel, if we're talking in wrestling terms, and just rightfully so. I'm being buried for that today because it was very disrespectful what I did. I said somebody tweeted me, "Read the room." So Michael Otto, when you're saying you're a Nashville radio personality, this is your team now too. I mean, listen, I work here. I cover your teams. Well, I cover the Titans, every day. I'm a Titans reporter. I have a talk show. We talk about all things local sports, Tennessee sports, even if the Grizz, get the shaft most of the time, honestly, and the Sounds, because I'm never going to talk about the Sounds. Sorry.
They've won like 9 straight.
I know. You said that this morning in the green room, and that concludes our Sounds coverage.
Yeah, I still didn't include it in my
for the remainder of the season. That was more disrespectful than what I did. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm in this weird position, right? Because I'm not, and I can't be a fan of the Titans. I'm objective Big J journalist, right? But like with the Preds and Nashville SC, and even like the Vols and Vandy, what should my position be? Should I become a Preds fan? Because I don't think they want me at this point. I think there wouldn't be as negative a reaction as the Portnoy thing, but I'm too far in at this point to go full Preds fan. And I'm never going to wear the gear and stuff like that. I'm just not.
Yeah, you don't have to go all out Homer, but look how everybody else at the station, I think everybody else at the station does it pretty well. I think Slay and Don and Brent do it fairly well. They support the home team, but they're not wearing jerseys into work and saying we and stuff like that.
Don was decked out in Preds gear last night. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I don't know. You're not going to media availability. I think it's okay.
No, I'm not a Preds reporter.
Right. I think it's okay to lean that way and still have objective opinions about the Preds while still wanting them to do well and expressing that you want them to do well.
Haven't I said that?
Yeah.
People just don't believe me.
Right, but that gets erased when you do the tweet the things you tweeted last. When
I say vibe check at 12:15 a.m.
You're seemingly taking pleasure in the Preds losing. It kind of undoes all the goodwill.
Why am I like this? I really, it's, rare moments of self-awareness. Andrew's just now getting to know us. He's probably like, these people are idiots.
Okay, Michael Otto asked you, what position would you want the announcers of the Hoosiers to take?
But I'm not Pete Weber. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a paid Titans, Preds, Vols, Vandy, whatever the hell employee.
How would it be if you were a radio host in Bloomington, Indiana?
Well, they would run me out of town like Kirk Herbstreit because actually – I have a funny story. Now, nobody cares about this in Nashville, Tennessee, but maybe they do because Tom Crean coaches Georgia now, and at least that's an SEC tie. Tom Crean revoked my student credential in Bloomington because I ripped him.
As a student?
Yeah, I was a student on student radio, like not legitimate journalism. Just whatever.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how many, but I'm saying this for the audience who probably doesn't know what this means. Now that you're sitting in the co-host chair, you can't just lob things out like everybody does what we do for a living. Tom Crean revoked my student radio credential because I made fun of him mercilessly on the student radio station that nobody listened to because he recruited the 47th best player in the state of Arizona. And that was like the big recruiting get for Tom Crean that year. I'm spitting with rage because he wasted Cody Zeller and Victor Oladipo and, Christian Watford and Yogi Ferrell and all these players for the dude looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. 47, Tim Priller. I still remember his name. Tim Priller cost me my credential at Indiana. So I'm like this even with my team. You can't ask me questions like that because I just the Homer stuff. I don't like it. I feel like we should be able to talk about things objectively. Speaking of Homer, Lucas is glowing because his Tennessee Volunteers baseball team has just gone up 7-0 over Alabama.
In the third.
They
want the run rule.
Man, they just struck that dude out looking. Incredible. Yeah, they're looking for another run rule after yesterday against Mississippi State. I mean, they're on the line. Okay, we got to get out of here. We're going to talk about Titans OTAs. I was out there yesterday. Some observations. Coach Mack will also join us later in the show as well. I'm Buck Reising. Lucas Panzica, I guess, is in here today. So is Andrew. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Insight, opinion, and expertise. Everything Middle Tennessee sports. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Game today at 1:30, a rematch of a game Vandy walked off 5-4 earlier this week. And 2 seed Tennessee is back up against Alabama today, leading 7-0 early after losing to the Tide due to a controversial interference call that wiped away a walk-off win in the 9th on Tuesday. The Memphis Grizzlies play Game 3 of a 1-1 series against the top-seeded Utah Jazz in the Western Conference tomorrow. As the series returns to Memphis, it was a loss in Utah Wednesday despite John Morant scoring 47. Game is an 8:30 tip. And Nashville Soccer Club back on the road tomorrow in Mercedes-Benz Stadium at Atlanta United. That is a 2:30 kickoff. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
The most successful streaming and podcasting talent in Nashville.
Friends, maskless, once again, show proof of vaccination. They let you take it off. It was glorious. And we have a little bit of a conflict here on the radio show with Titans media availability and me being on the air now, because this is new for me, or at least it's new. It's 3 months in at this point, a little over 3 months in. And, Titans media availability takes place largely in the middle of the radio show. So I end at 1. Titans practice yesterday starts at 1. So I'm having to sprint out of the studio and drive. I mean, it's not a far drive from Demumbrian to Metro Center. Not a far trip at all, but there's a little bit of traffic on 40, and I get caught up. So I'm probably about 15 minutes late to practice once I walk in. And the person who greets me at the gate in the middle of all of the construction is John Robinson. Just standing there, arms crossed, big old chaw in, laughing because everybody's talking about Julio Jones. Julio Jones to the Titans. What are the Titans? The Titans have had conversations with the Falcons, as our friend Diana Rossini reported yesterday, and set all of your little hearts aflame, calling it a, quote, long shot for the Titans to be able to pull off that trade. So John's standing there right at the gate when I walk in, and he just kind of scoffs and said, "Hey, slacker. You missed your opportunity. I've just spilled my guts about the whole situation." Teresa Walker is there. She's laughing at me. Corey Curtis is there from News 2 laughing at me. Obviously John has not disclosed any actual information because he's not just going to sit there. I mean, he does chop it up with us at practice, but no, he's not going to give us any actual information standing out there at practice. So I walk in, I'm a little bit late. But then I see this morning that the odds for the Titans for the services of Julio Jones, the odds have yet again shifted. The markets are moving, as it's called. The Patriots have now rocketed to the top of the odds for Julio Jones in 2021. PointsBet Sportsbook has moved the Patriots from plus 700 to plus 150. So they're now the favorites to land Julio Jones. In second place is still the Tennessee Titans, up from plus 1,000 to plus 200. And I had a few conversations yesterday that make me feel that the Julio Jones, it's still probably a long shot. And I don't, I'm not out here trying to, what's the proper word? I don't want to use a phrase that I can't use on terrestrial radio, Lucas. I'm not trying to tease you, is what I should say. But I do not believe it to be as big a long shot as maybe you were made to feel like based on Diana's reporting yesterday. That's as much detail as I can go into. I do not believe it to be quite as big of a long shot that the Titans might be in on Julio Jones. Lucas is in here fist pumping because Tennessee baseball is just absolutely taking it to Alabama in the top of the fourth right now.
Base hit.
Feel good? Is it? It's what we were asking about that Cubs Pirates play yesterday. Base hit or error. Did you see that?
Oh my God.
It's the most ridiculous. We were talking about that yesterday at practice. I couldn't believe that.
I would be a huge baseball fan if that was routine in baseball.
That looked like something that I would do in like a 6-year-old baseball league.
Javi Baez, man.
Unbelievable. Just the idea that Javi's just jogging back, basically backpedaling, just luring the first baseman out of position.
Well, it's that when the player was safe at home, Javi, he celebrates the safe. He does this.
Did you just hit your microphone?
Just hit my mic.
You can't be in the big studio anymore.
He does the safe.
Andrew, you should probably switch places.
And then he gives a fist pump, and then he starts running back to first. He does a moment to celebrate before he goes and takes first.
You're way too expressive to be doing radio. You just punched your microphone.
I'm Italian. There's going to be some adjustments.
Oh, so anyway, the Julio Jones conversation is going to continue basically through next Wednesday is June 2nd. More fist pumping, 2 runs.
It's 9-0
on the board. I think they're going to run rule Alabama again.
It's 4th inning, 9-0.
Look at the Vols. Beautiful. The SEC championship game in baseball will be on Sunday, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So we will see how far the Vols are able to advance. They've made a good push after losing to Alabama the first time around in their first game of this tournament. Down there in scenic Hoover, Alabama.
Ugh. Spent 10 years over there.
10?
Yeah.
In Hoover?
From age, in right outside Hoover, and basically in Birmingham. Age 8 to 18, I lived in Birmingham, Alabama. So
gross.
I have a special hatred for Alabama.
I'm going to have to spend my birthday in Hoover, Alabama if I go to SEC
I'm so
Media
sorry
Days.
about this. There's really nothing good about Alabama.
Do you know how dramatic I am about my birthday? It's the only thing I care about. It's the only thing I care about.
Yeah,
I was thinking about taking off work anyway at this point. It's unfortunate because Josh Heupel and Lane Kiffin talk on the day that we would theoretically be down there for SEC Media Days.
Swing by the Panzica house. My dad will make you a wood-fired pizza.
That almost sounds worth it.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty good today. Anyway, so we'll get into OTA observations coming up next, but just keep the Julio thing on your mind. Obviously, it's not going anywhere. It's going to linger over all of this until somebody actually trades for the services of Julio Jones. But again, the Patriots now the betting favorite, the Titans in second. And depending on which sports book you look at, FanDuel had the initial odds. These latest come from PointsBet Sportsbook online. Boom, go Vols. Tidwell is dealing, says Brad Lifford. Yeah, a lot of people watching the Vols today. They should. This is a winning program at the University of Tennessee. It's beautiful. Look at Tony Vitello. Lucas is gaga-eyed over him.
I'm gushing.
Vitello, not Vitello.
I know.
Anyway. So we will come back and we will talk about observations out at OTAs yesterday because, a lot of guys took advantage of Memorial Day weekend. Like a lot of the top line players. And I expect, based on some of the people that I've talked to, I expect there to be a lot more of familiar faces out there come next week for that iteration of OTAs. I think most people are getting out of town for this particular version, given that it is all voluntary. And you'll hear from Mike Vrabel, Christian Fulton, and Darrington Evans because we had the opportunity to talk to the two of them. And who else did we talk to yesterday? We talked to Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, and Darrington Evans. Unfortunately for the media who are doing the Zooms outside on card tables while the grass is being cut after practice, the 3 lowest talkers on the football team. It's very, very difficult for the old guys. Making fun of John Glennon and his gray beard cohort yesterday via the Zoom. But you'll hear from Mike Vrabel and some of those players here in just a second, and I'll tell you where the position battles are starting to form. Because even though the roster in its entirety was not out there yesterday, you see the bones of guys who are trying to, whose opportunities may have opened up. In the case of Amani Hooker and Anthony Ferkser, as we discussed yesterday, you see the competition at right tackle starting to take place with Dylan Radins, obviously the second-round pick, some of the guys who are trying to push for that spot. And at this point, really, it's a wide-open door for the undrafted rookie free agents at tight end. And there was one notable name who people keep citing as a solution at tight end that was not there yesterday. I'll tell you who that is and what else I saw out at St. Thomas Sports Park Coming up next, I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
The Titan Station. Yes! This is 104.5 The Zone, Nashville.
Let me tell you about the fine folks at DraftKings Sportsbook. Playoff time, big stakes, bigger promotions. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you courtside with a chance to turn $5 into $200. That's 40-1 odds on any basketball game. All you have to do is pick any team that is still in the hunt for the trophy, and if that team wins, you will receive $200 in free credits. That's right. Pick any team that is still in contention, bet $5, and if that team wins, you cash $200 in free credits. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code WGFX when you sign up to turn $5 into $200 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you can claim $200 in free credits with promo code WGFX for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older and present in Tennessee to bet. Wager paid out in free credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
In business, it's never just another day. Every day is the day. It could bring your biggest order yet, or a new cyber threat.
I don't know. I'm pretty eclectic with my music taste. And I feel like, I went through a phase, like a hair metal phase, when I was probably in, 6th or 7th grade or whatever. Everybody had a pair of Vans skater shoes. Everybody was listening to System of a Down. I don't know. Does that count as metal? Andrew, I'm going to you as the authority on this. Lucas is usually my music go-to.
I don't know if that's metal, but it's definitely like progressive hard rock.
Okay. So there's nuance. You've outed yourself now. Now I'm going to have to go to you on this. What is your taste in music?
I listen to a lot of everything.
Okay.
I'm more in the, rock, pop genres than anything else.
Okay. Rock, pop genres. So how would we categorize what I just heard? Who sang that? Or who played that? What was just poured into my ears?
This is called The Happy Song by Bring Me the Horizon. I would classify that as heavy rock, maybe borderline metal.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Andrew is not prepared for how often I'm just going to throw him in front of the microphone today. That's all right. Lucas is back there getting us the Titans audio that we require. So we spoke to a handful of these players yesterday, and as I mentioned, the vets, the majority of them, there's no A.J. Brown yesterday, there's no Jeffrey Simmons, there's no Kevin Byard, no Jayon Brown, Rashaan Evans, Taylor Lewan, Ryan Tannehill, on down the list, right? Like, the main actors in this thing are not out there. Now, guys that you do see, Derek Roberson, we talked about Ferkser, Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley, and Elijah Molden, both still not out there. Worth monitoring at this point. Farley, we understand that this may be a bit of a process as he rehabilitates from back procedures, plural. But the Molden thing's still very much up in the air, and Mike's never going to talk to us about injuries. So, we asked yesterday, and basically we were told everybody's on a plan. Everybody, we individualize the plans for the players, and we do what makes the most sense for that individual on that given day, which is now 2 practices that the media has been out and available for. Elijah Molden, limited, has been the description that Vrabel has been willing to put on him. But we spoke to Christian Fulton yesterday, and obviously, you'll hear from him in just a second. But I want to focus on Ferkser and Hooker for a moment, because Ferkser's out there. Ferkser's obviously around in Nashville right now. He is trying to prove himself worthy of more than a 1-year deal, even though he was a restricted free agent this year. Another team had to match the offer that the Titans put out on the table. They did not. Ferkser's back. But Ferkser's trying to prove that he can be something that, to this point, he has not yet been asked to be. Ferkser has been a glorified slot receiver and a successful one, hugely successful one at this point. Nothing I say about Ferkser and his inability to straight up replace Jonnu Smith is taking away from what he does for this offense. I believe him to have played, and he has played a very, very critical role in all of this. And he's out there yesterday, and he's participating. He's leading the drills. He's the first tight end going through all the individual periods. He's the first tight end out there with Deshaun Kaiser and Logan Woodside, the 2 quarterbacks that were available yesterday. Ferkser, all he has ever done since getting to Nashville, because he was bouncing around on practice squads. I think he was with the Jets, if I recall correctly, before the Tennessee Titans. Got here, I think it was 2-3 years ago at this point. All he does is get open. All he does is catch passes. All he does is convert third downs. Critical ability and successful in the role that he's asked to play. Now, I think we all have our doubts about him being able to fulfill the full Jonnu Smith responsibilities, where you're an inline blocker, where you can line up in the backfield, where you can be split out wide, where you can line up in the slot. Just one of these super versatile tight ends that everybody seems to value at this point with the way that NFL offenses are evolving. Now, he was probably the busiest yesterday. He's also the most skilled, the most practiced at this point, because he's out there running around with, guys like Tommy Hudson and Miller Forrestall and Des Fitzpatrick. And I got my first look at downtown Freddie Brown, who's wearing number 82, and it still jars me when anybody not named Delaney Walker is wearing 82. I don't know why that's difficult for me to get over, but it always catches. We were just standing there yesterday, and I said, oh, that's not Delaney Walker. It's Freddie Brown. Much bigger than I thought he was going to be. Anyway, I digress. So Ferkser's out there, and he is staying available. He is participating. He is making an impression on the coaches. Then there's Amani Hooker, who has the ability to become basically what Kenny Vaccaro was to this defense, the starting box/strong safety in this defense. And we'll talk to Coach Mack about both of these guys later in the show and what Mack saw at OTAs because he was out there with us as well. Hooker looks physically smaller because this is a bulky dude when he first got here, like a physical specimen. I mean, he's not terribly tall, but he is jacked, built, like cut up, and he looks much slimmer this year. Now, we talked to him yesterday. He said he's brought his weight down, kind of adjusted his training and conditioning style to increase mobility and his agility because he's going to be asked to do a lot more this year. And Lucas and I were talking about this in the green room earlier, basically just kind of going through, well, you know, what could we legitimately learn, or what did I legitimately learn coming out of yesterday? And I'll tell you three critical observations. Well, I've already told you one, that everybody that largely mattered took full advantage of Memorial Day weekend. But I'll tell you what the other two here in a second. And he brought up the idea of Amani Hooker getting an extended role or extended reps running with the quote-unquote starting defense, because obviously the vast majority of the defensive players that are going to start and play meaningful snaps, not out there yesterday. And for me, that's kind of overstated a little bit, because I don't know if people forgot that Amani Hooker started, I mean, not a bunch of games last year, but started a handful. Kenny Vaccaro dealing with some kind of weird non-COVID related illness that kept him down for a handful of games. And he performed quite well. He was the starter at strong safety in that Ravens game. He had a critical interception on Lamar Jackson before they started to turn things around, and they ultimately won that game in overtime. Amani Hooker, I feel pretty good about. Then they have to work out the rotation in the secondary with Jackrabbit, who we'll spend some time on because he had a little bit of an incident that we were talking about yesterday, and then I saw TMZ reported it out this morning. Just who drives a Rolls Royce and leaves it in the economy parking lot at the Atlanta airport? That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway. So we get to talking about the secondary. You have Fulton. You have Jackrabbit. You have, at some point, Elijah Molden and Caleb Farley. Now, where all of those pieces are going to fit has yet to be determined. It could be that they find a way in their dime defense to work more of those four corners in, as opposed to using a three safety look like they were doing last year, where you saw Vaccaro and Amani Hooker and Kevin Byard all out on the field at one time. But the real story, I think, out of yesterday is the second-year players, the sophomores. And I asked Mike Vrabel yesterday about this because last year was completely screwed, completely bleeped up, right? COVID wrecked everything normal about the offseason. And so I asked Vrabel yesterday in our press conference after practice, how much second-year players like Christian Fulton and Darrington Evans, who we spoke to, stand to gain from just having a normal OTA.
Yeah, I think traditionally everybody looks at that year between year one and year two, as a big jump, and we're very hopeful and excited about that, even more so than normal. Maybe didn't get last year from a football perspective, but also from a player engagement perspective. I think we believe that our program, led by Chicky Giassi and Mitch and Dr. Sheila, will help these players grow on and off the field. So some of those players in their second year will also have some follow-up sessions from the Zoom meetings that they had last year, and then also just get them out on the field and allow them to continue to work and take the opportunity to develop.
Development is critical right now for these players, right? Because last year's draft class, that was Mike Vrabel yesterday in our post-practice Zoom with him before the Wi-Fi. Vrabel excused himself from the Zoom yesterday. He got so mad at how bad the Wi-Fi connection was. 16 months into the pandemic, Titans media still can't figure out how to operate a damn Zoom. Drives me crazy. But it's so important to see guys like Fulton and Evans out there right now, Darrington Evans, that is, because of how much they missed. It's not just that they're bodies did not have the proper ramp-up time to acclimate to life as an NFL player. It was an incredible play by the Vols out there in right field right now. This is looking really, really good. They're getting closer and closer to run rule. Bottom of the fifth. 1 on. 9-0 against Alabama. Lucas is loving it.
Sweet revenge.
Your homer is showing. Simmer down. But for Evans, they brought in legitimate competition for Darrington Evans this year. This is a third-round pick. This is somebody who should play, who should contribute, who should diversify this offense. And by the way, who played a lot, who worked with the wide receivers yesterday. Something we also asked Mike Vrabel about. Because, everybody bashed Urban Meyer for doing the same thing with Travis Etienne. And here's Mike Vrabel. If you want to call him an Urban Meyer disciple, that's on you. I don't know how Mike could feel about that. What's the thing about Belichick? I'm not a mini anyone. The ego. Anyway, this was Mike on working Darrington Evans with the wide receivers yesterday at minicamp.
Well, I don't know where he's going to line up, Teron, right now, but I know that Darrington's has been a versatile player. I know he's dealt with some injuries, in his first year, but I would say that he's a player that we're excited about and has some versatility. He worked there today. Those are ideas that we try to have and just try to get him some cross training work, and a lot of those players that can handle more than one particular role. Then we'll continue to add those roles to them. And I said Darrington would be one of those players.
Mike Vrabel yesterday with the Titans media corps via Zoom. So I wouldn't go crazy with this Darrington Evans at wide receiver thing. There's a lot that's going to go on. Now we asked Evans about this. He said, they could line me up at tight end and I'll play tight end. I don't care. I just want to get on the field. But he has so much further to go. And something that I thought Zach Lyons of Football and Other F Words pointed out really, really well about Todd Downing, who's, of course, the new offensive coordinator for the Titans, promoted this year after being tight ends coach under Vrabel for the past couple of years. Todd Downing features the running backs more in the passing game, or at least did when we last saw him as an offensive coordinator in Oakland. That team went 12-4. Derek Carr got hurt, and they pooped themselves in the playoffs. It was a tough scene. But what is that funny? You're just going to giggle without your microphone on? I'm out here doing a stand-up routine. If you want to laugh into the microphone so it doesn't just sound like I'm talking to myself. Do something today. And then you do nothing.
Giggle. I did giggle.
Then you do nothing.
It's just something.
Why are you in here?
Something elementarily funny about it. They pooped themselves in the playoffs. I'll shut up.
I'm not doing a lot of high-level comedy, Lucas. I'm just doing the show, okay? Help me do the show. Stop hindering me from doing the show. Unbelievable, Andrew. The incompetence around here. But Zach Lyons pointed this out on his Twitter account at FWordsPod. Running back targets, Titans in 2020, 52. The Raiders in 2017, which is the offense that obviously Todd Downing last coordinated, 119. Running back snaps at wide receiver, either in the slot or split out. The Titans in 2020, 36 total, 24 in the slot, 12 out wide. The Raiders in 2017, 73 total, 33 slots for snaps for running backs in the slot, 40 split out. They're going to find ways to work Darrington Evans into this receiving rotation. He's not going to be an outright receiver. He's obviously still his primary position is running back. But when we make all of this noise about the lack of pass-catching talent that the Titans currently have available, Darrington Evans has wide receiver in his background. In fact, he was recruited there initially at App State as a wide receiver, turned out to be an exceptional return man, found his way onto the field as a running back, now has that both in his arsenal, although we have not yet, obviously, seen it due to the injuries. He has so much to prove at this point because they went and brought in Brian Hill, who was a successful running back, understanding the Falcons were god-awful last year. Brian Hill has, at least statistically, impressive numbers. I've watched a little bit of him. Atlanta was in a lot of games last year. They lost a lot of one-score games. Their running game was not overwhelming. Their offensive line is not great down there. But Brian Hill I think finished with just over 900 yards. Lucas, if you could fact check me on that, see what Brian Hill put up statistically last year so we can cite that for the audience. But that's competition for Darrington Evans. Both of them out there yesterday, both of them catching passes out of the backfield. Christian Fulton, another one, because he's been asked to do quite a bit in his young Titans tenure at this point. He played inside, started in the slot. They were dealing with injuries last year. You obviously didn't have a Dory Jackson. You were still working with the corpse of Jonathan Joseph for as long as he lasted on this roster. Do you have the Brian Hill numbers?
Yeah, 100 carries, 465 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Okay, so I completely made that 900-yard number up.
Throw in 200 receiving yards.
Okay. Either way, I was wrong. I'm glad I had you fact check.
I thought that didn't sound right.
No, that didn't sound right at all. Bad job out of me. Anyway, that's why Lucas is here. Thank you for helping the show. But it is legitimate competition. It is somebody who has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, somebody who can push Darrington Evans for that Jeremy McNichols role, right? Anytime, and it was McNichols, it was Deontay Foreman. They both did well in spurts. Now we need to find a more permanent solution, a more sustainable solution behind Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, the best thing about him is that he doesn't need to come off the field. Now they pull him off the field on third downs in a way that drives you guys crazy and also lets the defense, it makes their offense, when Derrick is on the field and is not on the field, makes their offense eminently more predictable. That's the thing that they're trying to mitigate with either Brian Hill, and they may end up both making the roster, and they may end up both playing some kind of role in this offense. We do not know, based on the changes in personnel, what Todd Downing is going to do. We understand the core pieces, Tannehill, Henry, AJ. But that second running back position I'm interested in because of how much we have yet to see from Darrington Evans. Then there's Christian Fulton with a whole new secondary, basically. Kevin Byard returns. Amani Hooker has been on this team, not yet a full-time starter, but has played as a starter for this defense. You see Jackrabbit probably going to play on the outside. I think Farley, in a perfect world, when he's right, plays on the outside. You have Molden, who is the Jedi in the slot, as Louis Riddick describes him. Where does that put the second-round pick from last year? Where does that put Christian Fulton? So I asked Christian yesterday about, how he was kind of adapting to working with this new group, to kind of acclimating to the new faces around him, even understanding how many of them were not out there yesterday. This was Christian Fulton in his Zoom availability with us after the second Titans OTA.
It's been great, feels like a fresh start really for everybody, like you said, a lot of new faces, so we got to get to learn each other and be able to gel as one, not want to speak on last year, but we know we can be better as far as everybody, in the secondary. So it's good to get in early with, like I said, OTAs, get in early and get a connection with the guys that are here. And even when those guys who do come back, those veterans have some experience out there, a lot more experience than us new guys. So I'm sure they'll gel in fine, but it's good to have new faces, a lot of young guys in the back end.
As long as the communication gets fixed. I don't want to hear Kevin Byard tell me communication one time in a Zoom this year. It's just a cry for help. It has to be corrected. So this is something that Christian Fulton is going to play a role in. We'll talk more about this on the other side. We've got Coach Mack coming up later in the show as well, because there's one position battle that is already starting to take shape. You may not be thinking about it. It may not be top of mind, but it's going to be especially important given the expanded NFL regular season. We'll tell you what that is, who those players are, and all about it. On the other side, I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So yeah, Tim Tebow is back in the NFL. Great. I hope you will join me in this chorus of idiocy, this wave of stupidity that is lapped upon our shores. Tim Tebow, back in the NFL. The Buck Reising Show. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Thanks, Bill. Have a great day.
Every time our seniors pick up their prescriptions, they're saving money thanks to Medicare Part D. Now, Washington's special interests want to dismantle this vital program and use the money to pay for a partisan political agenda. But Marsha Blackburn is standing up for Tennessee seniors. Blackburn is fighting to protect Medicare and keep drug costs low. America is the global leader in medical innovation, giving our seniors access to more drugs, treatments, and cures than anyone else in the world. And Marsha Blackburn's plan would keep it that way. Now more than ever, our
woke up, got great sleep last night, woke up, just kind of scrolling through Twitter, not really paying attention to much, get on Instagram, just having a good morning, and I get a text from the Kim Smith saying, Madge, check your Twitter. And sure enough, this girl is verified on Twitter before who? Who, Buck? Who?
Me. Andrew, do we have Caleb Farley back there? I'm putting Andrew. I'm firing on all cylinders, but I need to rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Do we have him available?
I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
One more time for the people.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
This is crap, Mads. Who'd you pay?
You know what? I think it just means I'm more established in this industry than you, and you should probably just quit your job now.
What defines a stat? I'm legit. Lucas saw how much this bothered me this morning. He was sitting in the green room when we got this text because, of course, people can't just let you know and be happy for you. They have to do it at my expense. And I felt, Mads, I swear to God, I felt my chest tighten. And I felt like blood start to pour a little bit out of my ears because my blood pressure went up. You don't understand how badly this hurts me.
Yeah, I could tell it really bothered you when you were sipping coffee in the green room in your robe. I mean, I could tell you really take your job seriously. So maybe that's why I got verified first. I've been grinding out here with these PWSAA championships this week, putting in 12-hour days, and you show up to work in a robe. So if that tells me why I'm verified and you're not, I think it just is what it is.
Madison, the next step is to get me verified before Buck and see what reaction that prompts.
I know. Well, it's funny because we've talked about this for so long, Buck. And we're like, okay, if I get verified first, I wish we bet on it. Like, I wish the stakes were higher that I got verified before you. But just know your time's coming. But when it does come, Buck, it's just not going to be as cool because
it happened to you first. Yeah, literally. So Matt's had a birthday dinner a couple years ago. Okay, I think it was your 25th birthday. By the way, Andrew, I hate to put you on the spot. 24th, whatever, it doesn't matter. Andrew, do we have Stephen A. Smith available? We need to wish Madison Blevins a happy birthday if he is present. Can we do that?
I don't know where that is.
Okay, I put him on the spot. That's all right. I like honesty. It doesn't matter, Mads. Keep it moving. So we had a birthday dinner for Mads.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Happy birthday, Mads. Anyway.
Thank you so much. It was 5 days ago, but I appreciate it.
It doesn't matter. This is why I don't have a blue check mark, because I'm sitting here screwing around on live radio. Anyway, so we had a birthday dinner for Mads a couple of years ago, and it was at a very nice restaurant in Midtown. In Midtown. We went to Nada.
Yeah, Midtown.
Your family was there. I showed up 2 hours late. I had no idea that the family was waiting for me to get there before they started eating. It was a disaster. But I brought a birthday card, and in the birthday card, I wrote, "Happy birthday, Mads. Love you. Just know that I have more Twitter followers than you."
Yeah.
This is sweet justice because now I'm suffering today.
You did, and you do have that on me, but I'm coming for you, and I think that I look a little bit more professional now on Twitter with the blue check mark, especially when you don't have one. But that was a really fun birthday dinner, but typical Buck shows up 3 hours late to everything. I honestly don't know how you start your radio show on time.
Some days I don't, and there's a fine system in place for that. Mads, get the hell out of here. I appreciate you coming on the show.
All right. I'm always here to humble you, Buck.
Madison Blevins, WBIR, where you can follow her on her verified Twitter account. Disgusts me at Madison4Blevins down there in Knoxville. It causes me such great angst. Why am I like this? It's probably my worst quality as a human being, and I have many bad qualities. But just the fact that I need some stupid website to tell me that I'm actually me with nothing more than a little blue check mark that doesn't mean anything. It's not a real thing. But she has one and I don't.
I want one. Talk to somebody about this.
I mean, I go to therapy every Wednesday.
Has this been brought up?
Hell yes. Are you kidding me?
Why don't they like me?
There's some kind of insecure. It's just, I mean, everybody in this business is insecure, all right? It's always the best when, like, former athletes, like Ramon Foster, who is used to the cutthroat industry of the NFL. Dudes get, sent out on the street. They get traded. They get, they have their salaries not guaranteed, swept out from under them. They lose their jobs to younger players coming in, and they're disposable. Like, it's as cutthroat as it gets. And then you get here to the media industry, and you're like, oh my God, you are the people responsible, tasked with criticizing us? You, the most insecure segment of the working population? Everybody in sports media is a bunch of pansies, and I am one of them because I want the check mark. I can't have it.
I mean, with the new process, did you ever figure that out? What is the new process?
Oh, Jason Martin was walking me through it this morning. I guess he applied too because he's not verified. I don't want to have.
He used to be.
Huh?
I think he used to be verified.
Well, yeah,
but he changed his handle.
Twitter does this thing where you change your Twitter handle, you lose your check mark for whatever reason. If that ever happened to me, I would riot. If I got it and it was taken away from me, you guys think I'm annoying now, dear God.
Listen to you.
I mean, so I have the opportunity. I'm looking at my Twitter account right now, and it says I can request verification. But I don't want to have to request it. I don't want to have to beg. Just give it to me, damn it.
You are. You are literally begging. You might as well make it official.
Why aren't you on my side?
Because I want to get verified before you. I don't care how many more followers you have. Just for the sake of the content of this show, I want that blue check mark. This is the only reason I want the blue check mark. It's not something I had really thought about until now.
Oh, my God. Cousin Andrew says, follow Madison Forblevin so she can have more followers than Buck Reising. Make it happen.
What is the discrepancy right now?
I mean, it's a couple thousand.
Like, how many do you have? Because I know you haven't memorized. Just rattle it off.
11.7.
Oh, she's got 4,000.
Yeah, no, I mean, I smoke her.
Yeah, you've doubled her up.
Yeah. Well,
no, almost triple.
More than double her.
Yeah.
Math is hard.
We've been burned by this before. We got to stop doing this.
We got to stay away from this pitfall.
Yeah, you have twice as many followers.
And I can't get it. What do I got to do? Anyway, I was supposed to talk about quarterbacks here. We'll do that coming up next. Before Coach Mac joins us, I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Off season. Yeah, like that exists. We have no idea what you're talking about. The Titan Station. KFX Gallatin, Nashville. A Cumulus station. Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Preds season came to an end last night in the first round against the Carolina Hurricanes with yet another overtime game lost just 1 minute into the extra period. It was the fourth straight OT in this series. Sebastian Aho redirected a Jacob Slavin shot for the Canes to take it 4-3 in 6 games at Bridgestone Arena. Preds had their first 2-goal lead of the series. It was 3-1 halfway through the second, but Carolina responded with 3 unanswered. The Canes move on, taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning in the next round. Vandy boys fell to 1-seed Arkansas 6-4 last night. They play Ole Miss in an elimination game today at 1:30, a rematch of a game Vandy walked off 5-4 on Wednesday. And 2-seed Tennessee is back up against Alabama this morning after losing to the Tide due to a controversial interference call that wiped away a walk-off win in the 9th on Tuesday. Vols exacting revenge, 11-0 in the 6th. The Memphis Grizzlies play Game 3 of a 1-1 series against the top-seeded Utah Jazz in the Western Conference tomorrow as the series returns to Memphis after a loss in Utah Wednesday despite Ja Morant scoring 47 points. Game is an 8:30 tip in Nashville Soccer Club back on the road playing Atlanta United tomorrow, 2:30 kickoff. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
He's been the best Titans reporter in town, so of course we had to get
Hurricanes this morning was exceptional trolling. What I have seen from the Carolina Hurricanes this morning in a victory, a Game 6 victory in Bridgestone Arena, after the Preds, by the way, having been the superior team for a great majority of this series. Ultimately, little mistakes cost them the series. We've talked about it ad nauseum. If you missed any of the Preds talk, we did it with Kayla Anderson in Hour 1. The podcast is the Buck Reising Show. Go subscribe to it. But now, the Carolina Hurricanes Twitter account, @Canes, is where you can follow them if you so choose. I imagine many of you are not interested in that today. But 3 hours ago, they tweeted a banner night in Nashville, and it's just mocking the Nashville Predators after a defeat. The 3 banners that they have pictured: Taylor Lewan crushed a beer, Creed played during an intermission, which is probably the reason that they lost last night. Terrible. What are we doing with Creed in the year 2021? What is that?
But if they had won, that would have been the reason they won.
No, that would not have been the reason they won. They won despite Creed performing during intermission.
I imagine a meeting that took place where a bunch of people looked at each other, said, "Who do we need for the intermission?" And everybody in unison said, "Creed."
Who looked around and said Creed and said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." Anyway, I digress. So you got Taylor Lewan, crushed a beer is one banner. Creed playing during intermission, second banner. Second loudest house in the NHL, this is the third banner. So it's just a great trolling job by the Carolina Hurricanes against the Nashville Predators. One of the best things to result from social teams having social media accounts, social media managers, is they create these little, not really feuds, but like wrestling. Like somebody's got to play the heel. The victor is going to play the heel. So the Canes doing that well. Their social media, very well done as of this morning. But then this bull bleep, before I say a word that gets me in trouble. V-Love has sent this to us, and it is another tweet from the Carolina Hurricanes 43 minutes ago. We got friends in low places, they said, and it's a picture, a screenshot, that they have been blocked by the Nashville Predators official Twitter account. Because we had this conversation this morning. Michael Otto wrote in on the YouTube chat, "Buck, you are a Nashville radio personality. This is your team now, too." Talking about the Nashville Predators. Because I'm trying to figure out how I feel about them. I'm trying to figure out, how to discuss them, how to cover them, how I want to go about this because I wanted them to win. I wanted them to succeed. I wanted to continue to talk about playoff hockey. But if you're telling me that this is my team, that this soft crap, this beta BS, that they are acting like crybabies because they got trolled a little bit on the internet. No, my team would never do that. I want nothing to do with a team that has this kind of loser mentality. Boo-hoo, we're taking our pucks and our sticks and going home. We've blocked you on Twitter, Carolina Hurricanes, because you're better at it than us. Woe is me. Lucas, defend your hockey team.
I can't.
What is that?
That was a hat tip troll by the Carolina Hurricanes. The banner night in Nashville quote, because that's been a topic for the Preds for the last few years, is raising banners for winning a division and winning the President's Trophy, winning the Western Conference, which is fair. But that was a hat tip, expert, just chef's kiss troll, and you just have to take a step back and respect it. You just have to respect it. The Preds social media team has to say, okay, that was good. But they blocked it. And the Canes screenshotted it and tweeted that the Preds blocked it. The Carolina Hurricanes have won this series again today.
If you don't have anything clever to say, just be quiet. You lost. You're done. Go home. Or be better at your job. Don't block them. This is such a childish mentality. And I've complained, and listen, you guys know I have my biases, okay? I've thought the Preds social media was trash all year long. I hated it. I hated the vibing thing. I thought it was excessive. I thought they ran a good joke into the ground. I thought it was fine for a minute, and then they ruined it because they just kept going and going and going and going, and it pissed people like me off. Maybe there's not many people like me, but this kind of stuff bothers me. I'm not going to claim a team that operates this way. It's embarrassing. It's weak. It's the last thing after we just got done praising you all morning long for how admirably you performed, how you overachieved in a series that you really should never been a part of. Absolute crap by the Nashville Predators, their social media manager, because listen, I get that social media managers are under a lot of scrutiny. I mean, we talked about the Who's the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders right now? Not Al Davis, Mark Davis, that put out the "I can breathe" George Floyd after the Derek Chauvin trial, the George Floyd tweet with the approval of George Floyd's brother that says "I can breathe," and the social media manager got buried for what was an ownership decision. I understand that these people are not always in a position to do what they want to do what they think is the best part of their job. So I don't know the situation for the Preds social media manager. I don't know who the Preds social media manager is. I hope that this was not he or she's decision to block the other team.
Alex Doherty has a theory that this was like a planned thing, that the Preds blocked the Canes so the Canes would post that the Preds blocked the Canes. Because he makes a good point that like all these social media managers kind of know each other. Like the Preds social media manager didn't grow up, probably didn't grow up like a Preds fan. They were probably hired from elsewhere. Most social media managers are, right, in the NHL and in the NFL and in the NBA. So I wonder if this was like a orchestrated. If it was, it doesn't come across whatsoever.
It looks like hell. Be better. If this was a planned bit, you look like fools.
Yeah, no, 100%.
615-737-1045. John is in Murfreesboro. He wants to rip the Preds. Good morning, John. How are you?
You know what? I was doing well until I hear about the Preds being crybabies.
What is this, John? Help me understand.
I mean, hockey's supposed to be a grown man sport, right? All these hockey players and all that, they talk about how soccer players are soft and NFL players are soft and baseball players are soft and everybody else is soft, but hockey players are big, tough guys, right? And they do this. This is some baby back BS, man.
Oh, without question. John, like my thing is that it's not the players. This is why it's so hard for me, because the way that the organization is run makes me think less of the organization. And it's not the Preds running the social media account. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I get that, but like you would think that if you're going to be involved with a hockey organization, that you're all going to have that same mentality of being tough, being that guy, being that dude that's going to walk in and go, oh crap, I better not mess with that dude. And this is preschool. I'm taking my ball and going home. This is like, who does this? This is like some Gen Z crap.
Yeah, I mean, Gen Z. I mean, Lucas, are we Gen Z or are we millennials? Thank you, John,
I
for the
think
call.
I just made the cutoff for millennial. I was born in 95. I think that's like the cutoff. So I'm barely a millennial. Balls run rule Alabama, by the way.
CRD Bass says, gets easier every day to turn off listening to a selfish or to a yelling, self-serving, snobbish tone of voice. Sorry, other Charlie is very right. Before and after your show, still worth the listen. So the zone has not lost a listener, just somebody from 1 to 3. That's from CRD Bass on Twitter. Toughen up, be better. Stop being so soft. You're acting like your hockey team. Larry's in Nashville. He wants to talk about the Preds. Go ahead, Larry.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I mean, really, it's emblematic of a broader theme throughout the Predators organization. I can't speak to Poyle and a few of the other people, but from a very high level down, their proverbial poop does not stink, and they do not think that they have to own their mistakes or even, own up to their shortcomings. I mean, dealing with them from a professional standpoint and also as a fan and also as a Nashville native, at times it does seem like they're a little bit, high on the horse, if you will. And, I know from a sports talk radio standpoint, you guys probably have to deal with their marketing and professional people, and it seems to be a little too rich for their blood sometimes. And I don't know where it starts or where it stops, but it seems to be an ever-present and growing problem. So,
Larry, hang with me for a second. Lucas, how many times have we asked the Preds for a player?
Several. And a lot of times, 3HL's gotten players throughout the course
Okay,
of
but
the end
us
of the season.
specifically.
But us specifically, usually it's because of a skate time, practice time interfering with our show. That's the reason I've been given.
Okay, do you think it has anything to do, and I don't want to put you in a bad spot, do you think it has anything to do with how critical I am?
I can't speak to that, but it's certainly a possibility.
Larry, we've asked people to come on from the Preds. They don't give us people, so I don't know what to tell you. It's.
I mean, I'm just going to start referring from this point on as Mr. Buck. But Mr. Buck, I do think that they have a problem across the spectrum, whether it's local bars, local venues, local personalities such as yourself wanting to have access and make maybe a cloudy day a little bit more sunny. But instead, they build walls instead of kind of opening their arms and trying to embrace the local community. And it might not shock you to know that, I might run a rather large facility in the near downtown area, and it doesn't seem to be going so easy for myself. So, at the end of the day, it should be an onwards and upwards type thing, not let's steep in our own juices sort of thing. So that's all I have. Happy Friday, boys. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Larry. We appreciate the call. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. I mean, the person who tweeted me about whining and complaining and self-serving or whatever, like, I'm not the only person bothered by this, okay? I'm just the loudest because I got the microphone in front of my face. If you guys don't think that what the Preds did here was crap, you are free to call us. You are free to tweet us. People have tweeted us. There's only one who seems to be on the opposite side of this argument, but I just think that is such a weak look. That's the last thing I'm going to remember about your season. Is that you cried and took your puck and your stick home. We'll brighten up the proceedings. We'll talk about Titans OTAs because the only person who can settle me down in this moment after not getting my blue check mark and after railing against the Preds social media handle yet again, is Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. He's going to join us coming up next. We're going to talk about the OTAs, and we're finally going to get into this quarterback conversation that I promised you we would have probably 20 minutes ago. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
More Titans talk than anyone else. What a catch! Your home for
737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Lucas will vet them to make sure that they're on par with the discussion, but we're always happy to have Mac as a part of the proceedings. So, before he gets in here and joins us, the man in black himself has jumped into the Zoom. Coach Dave McGinnis joining us now. Mac, how we living, brother? Oh, think he's on mute.
Lucas, good to see you. No, I wasn't on mute. You just couldn't hear me.
We're getting our stuff together, Mac. We got a bunch of moving parts. Lucas is moving up in the world. He's left Andrew at the controls. He's hosting Blaine and Mickey today. He's trying to big time us both.
Well, Lucas is big time. He's not trying to. He is big time. So that's fine.
So, Mac, we've been talking about, before we get into the OTAs, because obviously you were out there with the rest of us yesterday. You have some observations of your own, I'm sure. But we've been talking a lot about the Predators because they lost last night, and we've been trying to kind of figure out how to label their season, I guess. And maybe that's not something that coaches get into, but I'm just looking at this from a competitor's standpoint. If you don't make it to the ultimate goal, if you don't get to the Super Bowl, if you don't get to the Stanley Cup Finals, how does a coach kind of process a season after they've had some time to go through the end result?
Buck, in professional sports, that's the ultimate goal. You've been around this long enough. That's the ultimate goal, and so you can never be totally satisfied, unless you achieve that. Now, there's certain levels, that you have to get through to get there. And of course, to me, I'm not a hockey expert, but,
I
the Predators season, I mean, the way they started out and to fight back and to get in it, I had dinner Wednesday night with, Sports USA out of LA. Larry Kahn owns it. He came in, they did the game nationally for the NHL.
Okay.
And so I had dinner with he and then Brian Hayward, his analyst, who's an 11-year goalie in the NHL. And then John Eilers, his play-by-play guy. Both of those guys are 20-year vets doing it for the Anaheim Ducks. Anyway, it was interesting to have dinner with them preceding the game, just talking about their views as far as about the matchup and their expertise on it was the fact that it looked like that the Predators were starting to coalesce, towards the end of it and had found their footing a little bit. And so that they were impressed with them going in, saying, they expected that game that was played last night. They expected it to be very tight. Clearly it was. And so I'm going to have dinner with them again tonight and get their thoughts on it before they go on to do another national game, in the playoffs. But to me, look, you're disappointed, especially, locally. You're disappointed when it doesn't go because the hype and the excitement that playoffs bring in professional sports, you just want more of it. But when it ends, it's so final and the finality of it, I think, is something that puts everybody in a little bit of a depressed mode at the moment.
Without question, man. You didn't think you were going to get some hockey talk with Coach Dave McGinnis at Titans Radio here on 104.5 The Zone, but the man does it all. Of course, he's brought to us by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Turn to the folks who have been in the game since 1947. Farm Bureau Health Plans offers the great health care coverage you need with a price tag that you can afford. All right, Mac, we're out there at St. Thomas Sports Park yesterday. More players in attendance, some more vets sprinkled in with the rookies, the undrafted guys, the tryout players. A little bit lighter attendance as to be expected. It's a voluntary portion, a voluntary phase of the offseason for these guys right now. What kind of stood out to you? What was your primary takeaway? I'm sure you had many, but what were you kind of locked in on yesterday? Was there one specific thing?
Well, a general thing that I'm looking at right now at this point in the offseason when they're on the field, Buck, I try to look at, because, I was out there for rookie minicamp also, just as you were, to look at it and to see the progress that these players have made just in what they are being instructed to do.
Right.
Because there's a lot that goes on. These rookies, they're not limited to the amount of time they can be on the field. And so after their Zoom meetings, they're having walkthroughs. And when I'm out there, I listen to what the coaches are saying. And I listen to what the coaches are saying for two reasons. I want to see technique-wise how much they are having to work on with these younger players, and then to see what the retention ability of these younger players are. I'm not so much worried about scheme right now. I want to see, because when the younger players come in, they're going to be instructed to do, a number of things. And what I look for, as I repeatedly get to watch practice, is who are the repeat offenders? Who are the guys that are having to be, admonished the most? I heard it a couple of times yesterday, not talking out of school, just because I listen. I know buzzwords from coaches because I've done it for a minute or two. And so, when they are saying, we worked on this in rookie minicamp, or we talked about this 2 days ago. Those types of things that you catch, you want to know, because the attention and the retention and then the execution, that linear progression of your young players, that's what I'm looking for right now during these times.
Without question, it's a very, very critical portion of these for the players who choose to attend. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Mac, I asked Vrabel yesterday in our post-practice or OTA Zoom that we had with him, how important it is for the second-year players. We talked to Christian Fulton, we talked to Darrington Evans specifically yesterday, but this draft class that had such a blown-up offseason, for lack of a better term, if you could even describe last year as an offseason outside of what they were able to do or not able to do outside of Zoom meetings. When you're looking at, are you kind of looking at guys like Evans and Fulton, Laurel Murchison, who was also available and out there with them yesterday? Are you looking for those same kind of linear progressions in those players, or is this just kind of a new experience for them, and you're seeing how they kind of take command of the situation, understanding that they've been in the NFL now for a year?
But Buck, you bring up, you've got a good grasp of what the difference is, because those players that you just mentioned, along with their entire rookie class, those players that you just mentioned, they didn't have any of this last year.
Right.
And so, they were trying to hurry up to catch up because they were thrown right in with the vets, when training camp started. And so it's a good point that you make, because these guys missed a lot of that. And the other thing that's important too, those guys that you talked about, especially Evans and Fulton, they were injured last year. Now, when you come into the National Football League, you not only need to learn mentally what is going on with just scheme specific things that you've got to learn how to become a professional. You've got to learn how to practice. And that's something that these guys are having to learn how to do now, because most of your practices in the National Football League are done full speed without pads on. You have to learn how to do that so that you protect one another and still get good timing, speed work done without pads. You only have pads on 14 times during the regular season. So that's critical that you learn how to do that. And you heard it yesterday too. You saw that one instance down there in the end zone where that takeoff route was thrown, and then the wide receiver, they went up for a contested ball. Well, he grabbed the DB's shoulder, pulled it down, and immediately one of the veteran players said, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that. It's not about just winning the moment. It's about protecting your players too. And so they have to learn all of that. But yes, Evans, watching him, he was working some out. You could see him working on some of his release skills, as a receiver. He's not going to be a receiver. He's going to be removed from the backfield. That's what they're going to do. But you got to work on those skills with your receiving coach, because he hasn't worked yet on releases. He doesn't know the nuances of doing that. So you can see that they plan to use him last year as one of those guys that you could remove from the backfield and get a matchup. Because if you match up regular personnel to him, and when he's in the game, he's going to be the linebacker one-on-one, matched up out there in the slot. But you have to work on some from on the line releases. So he's finally getting to be able to be instructed, in being able to do that. And so those types of things are very, very critical right now. That's what's going on right now. And as I said, I'm not too worried about, and I'm not saying too worried. I'm not worried at all about the grand scheme of it. I'm looking at individuals, because all the individuals, but they're at different levels of things they need right now. But all of those rookies are together in one thing that they need to learn how to practice, along with learning how to be able to advance in their scheme, because once the vets show up and everybody's together, you cannot coach down a speed. You've got to coach everybody at the same speed.
What Mac is referencing for the audience is Darrington Evans did a little bit of work with the wide receivers yesterday. Vrabel, we talked to him about it. He said he kind of values that cross-training ability for guys to get additional reps at skills that they have not yet had the opportunity to practice, like working on releases, like Mac is mentioning there. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Mac, with Amani Hooker specifically, because he was one of the vets who was out there. You saw Anthony Ferkser as well as one of the more recognizable names for just the general fans who are curious to know who showed up for this portion of OTAs. Amani Hooker and Ferkser both have the opportunity to kind of create these new roles for themselves with starting opportunities now with Jonnu leaving in free agency and Kenny Vaccaro being out on the free agency market after being cut from the team. With Hooker specifically, though, he was talking to us yesterday about how he's changed his training regimen a little bit to kind of slim down and increase his mobility and agility. Is that something? I mean, I know it was only one day, and I'm sure you've been out there more than we have, just based on how much more you get to see. But is that something that you notice at all with Amani Hooker at this stage, or is it too early to tell?
Not only Amani Hooker, that's for guys as they progress in the National Football League. You know, one of the biggest fallacies, and you know, all the years I was coaching, you try to impart to these guys, when you come into the National Football League, especially if you're playing in an open space position, it's not how big you are and how much you weigh. You've got to be able to move. You've got to be able to move to be able to do all the things that you need to do, and you need to be able to do it consistently. And that's kind of dovetails, Buck, on what I'm talking about. You learn progressively, the longer you're in the league, what it takes to stay in the league and what it takes to execute what you're asked to do. So I absolutely noticed it, and I liked it because he gets it. He gets it. He understands, but you don't understand that until you've been in the league and you look at it and you say, oh, okay, you know, I don't have to come in here and weigh, you know, 212 pounds to work in the back end. It doesn't matter how big you are if you can't move. This is a speed space game. It is. And you've got to be able to do that. And so, yes, I mean, I noticed it clearly, and it shows me that he's on point with what he needs to do to advance his career and advance his part of this football team.
I mean, you're not kidding. When he came into the league, man, he's a jack dude. He is rocked up. And I mean, all of these guys they're professional athletes, but you really, really noticed it with Amani Hooker, and now how he's kind of adjusted his body to be able to play at a higher level. With Hooker specifically, though, Mac, because it's not, you shouldn't assume at this time of year, but he's obviously pushing for that role, competing for that role that has now been left vacant by Kenny Vaccaro. How similar are there similarities in their game that kind of lend themselves to him being able to fill into that position seamlessly? What are some differences? What are some similarities with Kenny Vaccaro and Amani Hooker at that box safety, strong safety position?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, what he's going to be asked to do is going to be exactly the same. Now, everybody goes about it a little bit differently. Okay. I mean, you know, they really do. I mean, Kenny Vaccaro, you know, I remember vetting him coming out of the University of Texas. I mean, I thought he was the best safety in the draft coming out. That's what we thought. So we thought at him. So, you know, coming out, I mean, he was a guy that could run, but he was also extremely, extremely violent, you know, when he came downhill. And that's kind of what he, you know, built his mantra on the whole time that he was in the league. But he could also be a space player. Well, Hooker's the same way, but both of them have this. Both of them have this, Buck, which is instrumental in being able to play that position. They've got spatial awareness, and they've got good K&D, which is key and diagnose. That's huge because you've got to be able to pre-snap diagnose things back there, because if you are moving, if you're only going to start to move after the play has started, then you're behind. You've got to be able to have pre-snap reads. You've got to be able to understand splits. You've got to be able to understand by what you've gone through all the week, looking at tendencies. All of those things are important because that position is a reactive position, but it's also a position that you have to make instantaneous decisions about what's going on. And it's not only visually what you see in front of you, you've got to have great peripheral vision too, because you're out there in space. But he can do that. Both of those guys can do that. That's why Kenny Vaccaro lasted so long as he did in the league. And that's why Hooker's got a chance. And he played last year back there. He understands. Right. He knows what it's going to take to play back there. And as you said, now he understands physically more what it's going to take. And it's not about you just get lighter, but you got to stay strong. You've got to be strong, but there's a difference between strength and weight.
Started several games for Kenny Vaccaro while he was dealing with, I believe it was never given to us, the illness, but Kenny Vaccaro dealing with some form of illness last year that kept him out of the starting lineup, and Amani Hooker produced when put into that role. Something else that I noticed yesterday, Mac, because it's the first time that at least we have seen him as a media corps. He was on the practice squad last year, but was not out with the rest of the team during the practices that we were able to watch, is Deshaun Kaiser. It was Kaiser and Logan Woodside out there quarterbacking for the OTA yesterday, doing a lot of work with a bunch of the guys. When you look at Kaiser, what kind of because obviously hugely physically talented player, second-round pick out of Notre Dame, has had an up and down, mostly down career, given that he's jumped around from, the Cleveland Browns to the Green Bay Packers. I think he had a quick stint with the Raiders as well. Now finds himself in Tennessee, where there is the position to push or the ability to push and compete for the backup quarterback role. So critical in any season, but certainly with an expanded 17-game regular season. What kind of stands out about Kaiser when you watch him?
Well, he is a good athlete. I mean, he was, as you mentioned, and you know this, he was a COVID quarterback last year, because he was inside the bubble when everybody else was out on the field, and he came out and was being able to work. Now, he was in the meetings and all the Zoom meetings, and so he's up to speed. He is a good athlete. Look, quarterbacks that bounce around the league, and that happens. You bounce around the league until you find that niche. But at the same time, as you're moving around the league, you need to be acquiring the knowledge that it takes, because at any position, Buck, when you come in the National Football League, it's different than playing, in Power 5. It's different than playing in the FCS. It's different than playing in anything that you're in. And so he's acquired enough knowledge now. He's going to be a better quarterback, just skill-wise and anticipation-wise, than he was when he first came in. Now what happens is he has got to produce consistently when he gets his chances. Let's see what his chances are. His chances have been exponentially accelerated or have been enhanced because we're going to have 3 preseason games. That's something that was not available to any of those guys, at any position, but especially the quarterback position, as new people to their franchises, not necessarily rookies, but just new people to their franchises. So if his chances are going to come with what you need out of a backup quarterback. Here's what you need. You need a guy that's got consistency, and you need a guy that is able to step in with limited reps, because that has to happen during the National Football League. Because when you cut down, you're going to get reps. You're going to get reps in training camp when you've got 90 players, and you're going to get reps when you got 80 and when you move to 85. But when you got 53 and you're working on up to the week on Sunday, you're not going to get many reps as the backup quarterback. Your reps are going to come with the show team working against the defense. And so what he is able to show, the consistency and the grasp of what he's doing on a consistent basis, he's got to be able to show that in this preseason.
Coach Dave McGinnis, brought to us every Friday at this time by our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Let the experts at Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it when you need great health care coverage at a price you can afford. They've been protecting Tennesseans since 1947. Mac, I appreciate you coaching us through this each and every week. We always enjoy our time with you. I'm going to have a glass of Casa Dragonis on the rocks to celebrate you in this Memorial Day weekend. Always good to catch up with you, my brother.
But that makes me very happy. And that just shows me how really, really good your taste is right there.
I got a good recommendation from a guy who would know. I listen more often than not, Mac.
Have a great weekend. See you, man.
All right, we will come back and wrap up this show. We will do the polls before we get out of here for this Memorial Day weekend. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Getting you set for Titans training camp. Bam! Your home for Titans football and the flagship of Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
Termites are swarming, mosquitoes are buzzing, and ants are biting. Yes, the signs of spring are all around us, and nothing will spoil outdoor fun more quickly than mosquitoes invading your yard, leaving you, your family, and your friends with itchy red mosquito bites. Fortunately, you can trust the experts at Arrow Exterminators to take back your yard so you can enjoy the great outdoors again. Family-owned, Arrow Exterminators protects homes and businesses from pests using the most sustainable solutions available. And you can have peace of mind knowing that Arrow has built their reputation on providing great customer service. And they back all services with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So go ahead and give Arrow Exterminators a call to schedule your free pest inspection and keep your barbecues pest-free this spring and summer. The number is 888-GO-ARROW or visit arrowexterminators.com. That's 888-462-7769 or Arrow Exterminators.
the replacements. And Lucas Panzica is the replacement. Now, you're not even so when are you on Monday?
1 to 4.
What, my slot not good enough for you?
I don't know. It got shuffled around. I don't make these decisions.
Yeah. So who's me?
I am Keanu Reeves.
What?
When it comes to the replacements, but I can be you on
All right,
Monday.
Falco, relax. Who is me on Monday? Who is going to be in my slot so I can tell the people who to expect?
I will be you on Monday.
Well, no, you won't because you're from 1 to 3.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Jesus.
I don't know.
What did I say, Andrew?
Nick
What did I say?
Nick and Braden.
Thank you.
Andrew knows.
Thank you for
Andrew
helping
knows.
the show,
Andrew
Andrew.
knows. Hey, Madison Blevins just followed me on Twitter.
That's why I'm here.
Oh, how do you make this job harder for me to do? We were just talking about this during the break. I said, Andrew, thank you for setting me up for success. Lucas has never done it a day in his life.
I believe Andrew said I set him up for success.
I don't believe that.
To set you up for success.
All right, so what are you going to
property?
What are you? So Nick and Braden, just why?
So who do you want to be you?
I don't want either of them to be me. Okay, I don't want them in my. Listen, I love Braden. I love Nick. I've worked with them for a long time before any of us were here or they were filling in here. Well, actually, Braden's been a part of the Zone ecosystem for a while, I think, when he was with Athlon. But I don't want either of them in my slot. I would rather you do it instead of them. They're going to ruin it. They're going to wreck it. So tune in Monday at 10 o'clock for, what should we call them? What's lower than the replacements? While I diminish my friends who are giving me a day off.
Yeah, I don't know.
The scabs. Thank you. Again, Andrew.
Andrew's going to take my job.
Superior in every way at this point. All right, Andrew, let's play a little poll open Russian roulette. Who you have for me today?
Not now, Jenny. I'm on the radio. Buck Reising gave me a job. Said something about a poll update. Hope that wasn't at that club where you became a folk singer. Anyway, Buck Reising's producer and correspondent has the final poll update. I'm not a smart man, but I know who Lucas Panzica is.
Yeah. Thank you, Forrest. Root Brian. You got to really emphasize the folk when saying that into the microphone. It scares me even now. What do we have?
Preds season, success or failure? Aside from the social media stuff, 53% say success to 47% saying failure.
I think that's about evenly split. That's where we thought it would be. I mean, again, you can say they overachieved throughout the course of this series. You can say what they did made you feel good for a minute. You can also be disappointed with how it ultimately went, the entire body of work, and the fact that, they legitimately blew that game last night. Sucks, but it's what happened. And that's completely removed from how I feel about their social media presence.
Who is the Titans' backup quarterback? DeShone Kizer or Logan Woodside?
Mac, we didn't get into Woodside much, and it's the first time that I've seen Kizer, but Teron Davenport, my buddy from ESPN, was standing out there with us, and he goes, let me give you a hot take. All right, let me give you one fresh off the rack.
Piping hot.
I said, all right, TD, fire away. He goes, DeShone Kizer going to be the backup quarterback for the Tennessee Titans next year. And, again, they're throwing on air. It's 7-on-7. There's a little bit of 11-on-11, but they're in helmet and shorts. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are not going to be any grand takeaways. DeShone Kizer looks like a second-round pick. Logan Woodside looks like an undrafted rookie free agent, all right? It's tough to do the analysis on its face that way. But I do think that Kizer gives them an element of threat that Woodside does not. I think Woodside would be efficient in operating of course, if Tannehill goes down, it's all a disaster. Like, it all goes to hell. But I feel, Teron's got a really good sense of this. Everything that I've seen, DeShone Kizer responsible for one of the worst football games that I've ever seen played. We were talking about this in the green room.
Against the Titans.
Kevin Byard, hat trick interceptions. Overtime, touchdownless game, 12-9 against the winless that year, 2017 Cleveland Browns. I'm still upset about it. But I think he has some promise. I really do.
Well, the poll results are 54.8% saying Kizer.
50. Say the percentage.
54.8% against Logan Woodside's 45.2.
Well, I love you all, but what do you know? You haven't seen him.
We didn't even get to this. would you ever leave your Rolls Royce in economy parking?
Well, we'll get to that on Blaine and Mickey. The answer is no. The answer is flatly no.
90% agree with you.
Yeah.
Who wins the Champions League final? Manchester City or Chelsea?
That's not from my account.
It's from my account.
Why?
58.3% say Manchester City, 41.7% say Chelsea.
All right, so not only have you wormed your way into the studio, not only have you placed your responsibilities on Andrew, who has done an incredible job of making me sound better today. Thank you, Andrew, for all of your work.
Thank you for knowing that.
Thank you for knowing that. Not thank you for saying that. Thank you for knowing
Thank you for knowing. I mean, you know what? What is Andrew going to do? I show up here hungover. I'm in a bathrobe today. I'm clearly, not performing at peak levels, even though, peak for me varies from day to day. He doesn't have much to work with, so at least he knows that he has been saving us from completely running this thing into a ditch. Dane Kinderlin writes in on Twitter, I think it's great y'all have Casual Friday, but Buck Reising took it to another level. I'm expecting him to break out a tub of ice cream and just start eating it out of it with a spoon. Come on, bruh. Be better, bruh.
You gonna go home? You're gonna go home and go to sleep?
I'm so going to bed after this because our next poll, I believe, has something to do with my activities.
How late is too late to go to Oh, missed opportunity. I should have said, did you watch the Friends reunion? That should have been
pissed.
How late is too late to go to Broadway?
10:45. I went at 10:45 last night. That was far too late. I was already settled into the evening. I was already out of my going out clothes. I was comfortable. I was at home with the cats. I had HBO on, and then I got the text. Let's go.
10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 a.m., or 1 a.m. The majority say 42% 1 a.m. is too late, 23% 12 a.m., 15% 11, and 18% 10.
Yeah, there's no right answer. It's all a mistake. V-Love said, I think it's never too late for some post-game beers at Paradise Park, which I went into for the first time in its rehabilitated form. It smells much better, but it was nice to see, it junked up again.
It's like great value Paradise Park.
That's a good description.
I'm trying to track down the poll from yesterday that we didn't even get to on the Friends reunion special was last night. So the poll yesterday was, are you planning on watching the Friends reunion special? So I'm going to find that.
Yeah, hell no is the answer. Friends is terrible. Friends does not hold up. This is a two Americas type situation.
75% did say no.
Yeah, because it's crap. If you like Friends, we can't be friends. Flat out. And I know your girlfriend watched it, so I apologize to it.
She did watch it.
I apologize to her in advance.
She enjoyed it. She said Matthew Perry looks awful.
I mean, I'm not going to laugh.
And that was throughout actual Friends. Like, he fluctuated. He went through some rough times during that show.
He's had like a low-key hard life.
But he was the funniest character on that show.
Oh, sure. I'm not going to criticize anybody's physical appearance right now. I look like hell. Are you sure I have to do Blaine Mickey today?
You do. Yeah, you got to stick around. 30 minutes. You can handle that.
I don't know.
It'll be me.
I know.
Myself and the Hitman.
I literally spend 3 hours a day with you. Like, that's going to get me excited. And I love Blaine. I'm doing it because of Blaine, not because of you.
Okay.
Just know that. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
All right. Mike Otto says, I've successfully never watched an episode of Friends. Good on you. Stay strong.
You've never watched an episode of Seinfeld?
I've seen not a whole episode of Seinfeld. I've seen like bits and pieces.
Go home, fall asleep to an episode of Seinfeld.
No, I'm gonna stop at the gym on the way home just to sit in the sauna and sweat.
Okay. I was about to say.
No, I'm not
crazy person.
I'm not gonna work out. Are you kidding me? No, I'm gonna sit in the sauna. I'm gonna let all of the bad, all of the evil from last night seep out of my pores. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm gonna lie down in bed. I'm not gonna watch Friends. I'm not gonna watch Seinfeld. I'm probably gonna watch some Curb Your Enthusiasm because that's better than anything else.
That's fair.
What's probably gonna be better than the last 3 hours that I did is Blaine and Mickey with yours truly and Lucas Panzica. It's coming up next. We'll see if I survive. Talk to you guys on Tuesday.
Want more fun from J-Mart and Ramon? Yes, that also means the pettiness. Hang out with Jason and Ramon whenever you want. Subscribe to J-Mart and Ramon wherever you get your podcasts.